Fantastic. I love all the ideas and how they've come together. And we'll hand back to Jan Vasbinder now for a final closing word on the whole conference.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian and the panel. I will, it says 15 minutes for my closing words, and I cannot even consider a speech of 15 minutes if I have full time. So what I will do is I discussed with Andrew that he will actually give a short note, and then I will close the conference with thanking some people. So Andrew, please.
How I'm going to summarize or conclude after this wonderful panel this morning, let me just very quickly say, Jan and I started this journey, and I just want to say this is a journey, because we wanted to explore what it means to be the East and the West, and what are the deep codes that we need to prevent future conflict, put it this way, okay? You switch on the internet and you will find that World War III is no longer a matter of if, it is already when. And that's the tragedy that we are living in. I thought, if I may very quickly summarize this conference in the way, and then I want to talk about the future. I think Aaron summarized it very well. We need to transcend East and West. But I want to put it in 3 questions. The first question is posed by my good friend, Kishore Mahbubani, who actually started this journey on Can Asians Think? And the answer, of course, obviously is yes. And this conference showed, and I think, that Singapore is a place where, a lot of these questions are raised, and Singapore is pushing the frontiers of thinking and research and reflection on what the future could be. The second question was actually Zhuangzi. Because Zhuangzi basically asked the very fundamental question 2,000 over years ago, was he a man dreaming about a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming that he was a man? And this is very deep wisdom. But a very recent question was written by this American, which I thought was wonderful. He started his book, this is the scientist Jared Diamond, book called Collapse, which I thought was fantastic. And it encompasses everything that we're talking about, including the panelists talking about climate change. He said, what was in the mind of the person who was cutting down the last tree in Easter Island to create this image of God, as we still see on Easter Island, but humans disappeared from Easter Island for, at least, several centuries. So these 3 questions encompass exactly what we're trying to achieve, in this conference, because this conference is only part of a journey. As Adrian Kwa said, it's part of time. It is a progression, and it's not the end of history. It is the beginning. But it is a work in progress. So if it is a work in progress, what have we learned from this whole conference? And I just want to share this with you. Number 1, I think that we've learned, and we may have forgotten, is that everything is a process. It is a process of strategizing, prioritizing, incentivizing, structuring, processing, execution, and then review. And the review actually starts that feedback. We take a very complex problem, we break it down to its manageable parts, but we have to put it back again. And we have to rethink this whole process. And the scientific methodology is forgotten if we don't have that discipline to think through this whole process issue. Now, sorry, My memory is not so good, so I have to remind myself what this is all about. But you know, you've heard this. This whole process is all about a mental map. So what are we going to do if we've learned so much from the linguists who say that if you think in English, you actually adopt an English language mental map. But if you think in Chinese, you use a Chinese mental map. If you think in Arabic, you have an Arabic mental map. And let me tell you, I'm a hybrid. I actually articulate in English, but I count in Chinese. Right? So we actually, you know, we are hybrids. You know, our minds think through in many different ways. So what is the objective of this conference when Jean and I started? First is to start this journey of exploration. Who are we? Where are we? How do we avoid? How do we get the deep codes? And this has revealed through all the richness that you have found. And it's very clear that each discipline that we've brought here have added to the richness of that understanding and discourse and discussion. But it's very clear also that we have identified gaps. And that gap itself is a contradiction. And that is the second lesson. It's not just it's a process, it is a contradiction. Wisdom is the unfolding of contradictions. Speak silence. Those who speak may not know. Those who do not speak actually speak volumes. Okay? And what is this confusion that we're facing politically? It is the silent majority is no longer silent. Right? So elites like ourselves, so those of us who consider ourselves elites, must never forget. We are either bridges or we are bypass guys. We have ignored the people that we thought were not important, but they are speaking in their silence. So to a large extent, we have now moved along this process of identification. We now need to review, and Jean and I will review. But the most important thing in that review is the feedback. So we need your feedback, particularly those of the young, because the future is an imagination. The museum of the future itself is a contradiction. The future is an imagination, but we forget that the past is also an imagination. And that's why that past carries so many different interpretations of history. And that today, the present, is our perception of reality, in which my perception is very different from yours. But there's one thing that is very clear. In not very long future, my generation will no longer be here, and it will be the young that will inherit the future. And it is for the young to create that future and to make it, because we have handed you huge debts. We have created wealth for ourselves that are imaginary. What is a debt but a piece of paper? It is an obligation to the future that the future generation will have to repay. So what I want Jean and I are thinking of is that we hope that you will give us the feedback of what you want this conference or project or whatever you call it to be. It may or may not be, whether it will be a physical museum of the future or imaginary one, it doesn't really matter. What matters is now for you to give us that feedback, and we will try and manage that contradiction and move forward. So with your support, I would like to thank you personally for how much I have learned from all of you, because it is not about teaching. Actually, teaching is about learning. Thank you very much indeed.
All right. Andrew did the hard work. Now I can do the easy work. That is this has actually been largely a self-organizing conference. That is in line with the complexity world that I kind of come from. We provided the context, and we sort of asked the agents to come, and then the content took care of itself. And that was, I think, a very rich content. Now, to make all that happen, all of you were very important. So I want to thank all of you for your active participation, for your questions. But I want to single out a few people in particular. And the first one is Andrew Sheng. He, as one of the conveners of the conference, was also a very strong and inspirational source throughout the whole process that he just described that we started. And without him, it would have been either non-conference at all or a totally different conference. So, Andrew, thank you very much. And I want to thank all the speakers who gave content to the inspiration that Andrew provided. And I'd like to thank Aaron Manyam, he said he cannot never refuse anything I ask. That is a dangerous thing to say. But you did two things which were fantastic. You took the responsibility to organize this morning, and it was a very special morning, and I think it was a beautiful end, finishing to the whole conference. And you got us into contact with the younger generation. I mean, I'm not saying that you're the older generation, but we have these young people from the junior colleges that have been very active and played a very important part in the conference, and it is thanks to you. So thank you very much. And then I want to thank all the attendants, everybody in the audience, and everybody that already left, although I must say we've now organized a lot of conferences. It is the first conference that the third day is almost as much, there's almost as many people as on the first and on the first day. So the last day is almost as fully occupied as the first, and it's quite unusual and it shows how good the conference was, I think. So I want to thank all the attendants, all the people that took the time and the effort to be here and to participate. But I want, as already I mentioned, specifically the students that came. And I don't know whether you didn't have to study in those days, but you took the time and you took the effort, and not only that, you actively participated. And as Andrew already said, you are the ones that will shape the future. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of what my father, at one moment, a discussion I had with my father when I was 18 years, about your age. And my father it was at the time that the Cuban crisis, so there was a threat of the Third World War, and I was really annoyed by my father's generation. So I told him, "Daddy, you really made a mess out of this world." And he looked at me and said, "Son, you're right. Now it's your turn." So don't make a mess. On the contrary, I think that what we have heard, this is a very promising generation. So, okay. Then finally, I want to thank the team that made all this possible. Apart from all the people here, there's a team that was led by Karen Chung, who you all met. She was not alone, but she managed them all. And I don't want to say students, actually, it's the students from NTU who have been taking care of all the technique. This is the video crew that will make sure that whatever was said in the last 3 days will be online in a couple of days, not a couple of days, couple of weeks. So if you access our website, Paradimes, then you will be able to see and relive the whole conference and think about it again. And so thank you all. And then as to the follow-up, Andrew already said we will review what happened. We ask for your feedback, and we will give the conference a follow-up, that is for sure. And if you want to be involved in this follow-up, you will be involved. You will become involved in this follow-up. As I said, the conference will be on internet. That will be the first step to take. So that will be our feedback to you in many ways. And that is the last thing I was going to say. I forgot to thank Di Kai with his group yesterday night. Those who weren't there has really missed a wonderful concept. We'll have him back in the future. We already discussed that. Okay, thank you very much. There's a lunch being served in about 5 minutes' time at the same place where we were before, 35th floor. Conference is closed. I wish you a very happy future.